Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go. I haven't talked to my buddy AJ Allen in a long time. How you doing, pal?
I'm great. How you doing, man?
Awesome, man. So, okay, wait. How do you keep your teeth so white?
Brush them, floss them twice, 3 times a day. Twice a day.
You
I'm not going three
you
times.
floss? I see. I got my girlfriend bought me like one of those $120 toothbrushes.
Uh-huh.
I've got really good teeth.
Uh-huh.
Never had a cavity in 52 years, but
Impressive.
but I grind my teeth,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't like wearing mouth guards. So I'm going to Turkey in November to get my teeth done,
Wow.
top and bottom. Yeah, like to do them in Canada. Seriously, dude, 30 grand in Canada to get 12 crowns on the top and the bottom. To go to Turkey, 7,700.
Everything in Canada is more expensive these days. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm I'm very happy you found an alternative that is, I mean, that's a big difference. That's a
That
big
is a
difference.
that is a huge difference. AJ, tell the folks what you're doing in the off season here, because I like stories like this. You're not just thinking about today. I had this conversation with my son today in the basement. I said,
Hmm.
"Listen, listen, Ethan. Football's going to come and go because he's in the combine this year. So
Gotcha.
football's going to come quickly, and it's going to go quickly. You got to be thinking after football. Is that something you've always done?
Yes, sir. That's something I've always wanted to do and tried to do, and that's why getting your education is important. So I am currently working as a legal assistant at a law firm, and I thought using my education before I was 30 would be a good thing to do. So I was searching, and my friend, who was also a legal assistant at the time, gave me a recommendation. I went through the interview process and got a job. It's I'm always very grateful for this firm because it's not easy in this day and age working for only a certain amount of time, right? Everybody wants you for a year. Everybody wants you for a longer period of time than the time allotted for the off season in football. But
Hmm.
I thank them very much. Uh, and yeah, it's just something that looks great on a resume, gets your foot in the door, and I'm enjoying it, man. I'm enjoying it. So,
Hmm.
learning something new every day.
Does it let you kind of dip your toe in the water to see if you actually want to jump in the pool and become a lawyer, or what?
Yeah, yeah,
What is it?
it does. It does for sure. You get to see the ins and outs and what actual lawyers go through and how they handle their day-to-day business because that's what I'm doing, right? I'm assisting
Hmm.
lawyers. So yeah, it's definitely allowed me to get dip my toe in the water and see at least in this aspect of law of what we're working with, man. What do I expect, what do I like, what do I not like, things like that.
Yeah. So what if you got into law? Because oddly enough, that's exactly what my kid wants to do. Got an environmental science degree at UND, and he
Hmm.
wants to be an environmental lawyer. So
Okay.
what kind of lawyer would you like to be if you were to go into the full bore into this law thing?
I always thought between criminal and business. Those are always
Okay.
those are very lucrative, but they're also very interesting.
Mhm.
And honestly, that started with Suits. I'm not even
Yeah.
gonna lie. I thought that show was awesome. It was incredible, and I liked the application. I liked Harvey Specter and Mike Ross
Yeah.
being badasses with the law. So
Yeah.
I always thought that was cool, and for that reason, that's why I kind of want to get into it.
Do you like dressing up?
I do like dressing up. I'm dressed up right now, actually.
Really? You got
Yeah,
your polo shirt on there,
I got my polo
or
shirt on,
yeah,
and I got my dress pants on for sure. Yes, sir.
nice. How many pairs of glasses do you got?
Just one, just one.
Just one?
I have some sunglasses, but in terms of like, cause like I'm actually blind, so these are prescription.
Oh.
Uh, so yeah, I actually
Hey,
need
guess
these.
what? Guess what? You're not that blind. I'm way worse than you. I got these from Specs by Ryan
Okay,
and in Regina here, and these are the same one of Drake's Cadillacs are made out of this. They only made I think 400 in the world, and I got number 351.
you
It's on
can't
the
hide money
inside of
now,
the
can you?
glass.
You can't hide
Yeah.
money. You can't hide it.
Yeah. Hey, you were money this year for the Rough Riders. Talk about your first career touchdown. I think was it a was it a deflected pass? I forget. It was against the BC Lions. Was it? It was
Yes,
off a stand back in
it
the
was off the
flats, right?
Silverback's leg. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So tell me
Um,
about that play.
no, it was incredible, man. We studied it all week, so I kind of knew what to expect in terms of the concept. Um, but in terms of how the actual play ran out, At the end of the day, I was just running to the football, and I got sure hands, secure that thing, and we run into the end zone. We get into the box all the way to
Yeah.
Walker Tower. That's what we going
Yeah.
to. So no, it was beautiful. It was just right place at the right time. Running the football. It's never gonna hurt you. And
Yeah.
catch it, make a move on my boy Nathan Ward. Love you, man.
Yeah.
And get in the box. And it was funny
Yeah.
because in the pregame, I told Thurman, I was like, I'm gonna make one today. When I get there, make sure you celebrate with me. And he was the first one there. I love it.
So do you, that is a good story. Do you believe in manifesting things?
I do. I 100% do. Talking into existence, talk to yourself. The power of self-talk is negative, which means on the counter end, the power of positive talk can also be positive. So,
Mhm.
um, do it.
How did you know though? How did you know though you were going to pick that off and take one home? Did you just have that feeling, or that
I
was
just
just you trying to talk it into existence?
I just had that feeling. I felt like I had a great week of practice. I felt like I was prepared, and I felt like based on what we was doing, I was in a position to make plays. I didn't think it
Mhm.
was going to play two, no, but
That's awesome.
I definitely thought that I could have got one, and love to see it. It was beautiful, and that was the
Now
only one I
you
got my hands on anyway.
you're going into your fourth year. So the first 2 years prior to i- prior to this last year where you guys made the playoffs, you got off to great starts and then circled the drain and finished 6-12 both years. Okay,
Hmm.
you went through another stretch here with Corey Mace's team. At
Hmm.
any point, did you get some PTSD from the previous 2 years where you're like, oh, here we go again?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, obviously it's tough, right? You're losing games. It's obviously not easy, and like the PTSD, right? You lose a bunch in a row. But this one was different because we weren't uh just being honest. We were getting our asses kicked in those first two seasons, right? We lost games. We were losing chemistry. Um, right? We were getting blown out in some of those ones, and you could feel it, like, man, like this is gonna happen again, isn't it? You find some momentum and you go back to, it's almost as if losing was muscle memory at a point, which
Mm-hmm.
sucked, right? It sucked. We just couldn't get out of the rut, but this year was different because it seemed like we were actually making improvements. For one, um, we were always with each other. We weren't fighting nobody. Um, and we weren't getting blown out, right? We were losing games by 3, 7, maybe 10. You know what I'm saying? Like we
Mm-hmm.
weren't absolutely destroying those games. We could have won them, but we made mistakes that at the end of the day were the difference between winning and losing, right? Whether it
Mm-hmm.
be one or two, it was a difference. Compared to those first 2 years, it was like 3, 4, 5, 6 mistakes that just kept snowballing and snowballing, So yeah, you started to get PTSD, but it also turned into like, okay, we can fix this. Right? We can fix this. There's small things that we can do that mattered in this game, that mattered in that game, that we need to correct.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Do you notice the difference between, or what's the difference, I guess, between Jason Shiver's defense that you were in for a couple of years and the one run
mhm.
by head coach Corey Mace?
Hmm. I feel like this defense is a little bit more aggressive. I think that's the best term I could use it. We are more aggressive towards how teams like to attack. I think with Shives and Jason Shivers and how he runs defense, he's always been this defense is sound, and you may know what we're gonna do, but you're gonna have to stop it. That's just the reality of it, right? We're gonna play fundamental football, and and we're gonna be in the right positions,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna make plays when we do. Compared to, I think Coach Mace is aggressive. We're gonna make you do things, or you like to do this all the time. Okay, what happens when you take that away? What happens then? Now let's see how you actually play football, right? Let's force that punch in the the metaphorical. Everyone's got a plan until you get punched. Let's force that punch early, and then see what happens, and then start adjusting.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of the difference between the two, because that's what it is, right? Defense and coordinators, it's the guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference between Jason Shives and,
Mentality.
and
Yeah.
Mace. So.
So how is this guy going into his fourth year from Guelph University? How is he
Mhm.
going to be, or how's he different than the guy that wet behind the ears coming to Saskatchewan and not knowing what Saskatchewan was all about? Like, is the game slowing down? The environment must be nice. Just talk about the change for you.
For sure. I think for me personally, yeah, it was definitely a culture shock coming from Guelph outwards. But like, there's one thing I was always good at, and that was special teams. Right, that's something you could always improve on and stuff like that. I
Mhm.
think I took a leap in my second year to being more field ready and being more prepared, and I think I've taken that leap every year since I've been in the league. That I'm a person. I'm always trying to improve. I'm always
Mhm.
trying to improve. I'm always got something to work on. I'm always trying to get better. And I think as the years progressed, I've taken things more seriously. I've practiced harder. I've learned more. Being under or being around Sankey, being around Dean, now being around Therm, being around great coaching like JC. I think I think I've been ready for a while, and it's just time to actually get on the field to show what I have learned, and what
Do
I'm
you
able
feel
to
that's
do.
right? Do you feel that's right there for you, AJ? Like, do you think this could be your breakout year? Because I kind of feel like you're on the cusp. When you made that interception, I'm like, yeah, that's a guy. That's a guy that I heard about from Ryan Sheehan there when I was talking to him in
hmm
Guelph.
Yeah, I do think so. I think again, don't ask me because if you ask me, I've been ready for
Yeah,
I've been ready for a
yeah.
while
Well,
now,
you should be.
right?
You got to be an alpha dog. I get it.
That's just what it is, and you got to be in the right situation and all that good stuff. But yeah, I think I'm ready for that. I think it's about time that the CFL learns a little bit more about AJ Allen and what he's
Yeah.
able to do on a football field, and not just special teams because we took over that. We've done that. We've done that
Hmm.
at the very high level for a number of years now. But I've always said this, right? My goal is always to be a Canadian starting linebacker. That's the start.
Hmm.
It was to be the best special teamer or whatever the case may be. We're up there now, all right. So now it's the goals. Every time you reach a goal, you set a new one.
Do you think
So
that door swung open though? Now that Auclair's gone to BC, do you feel like that door is kind of swinging open a little bit, and there's an opportunity for you? Because they always say when opportunity knocks, you better be ready to answer.
100%. That's and love Adam. I'm happy for his signing over there in BC, beautiful city,
Yeah.
and he's actually got a was a baby girl now, so
Yeah.
always happy for him and all that stuff. Um, Adam Jatem. But yeah, I think obviously like opportunity arises and you either build or break, and I think that BC game was just an example of I had one opportunity, and we made it work. Right? Not only did we make it work, we capitalized and set the tone for that game. Um, I made the first tackle, and then we had the pick six, and
Hmm.
so on and so forth. Right? You get an opportunity, you better show out because I can't be talking a big game, and then when I get the opportunity, like I crap the bed. So, yeah, I think that departure has left room for my personal improvement and my personal gain. So,
Hmm.
um, I mean, yeah, why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You lose a great Canadian, and someone's got to fill the role at one point, right? So,
Yeah.
why can't that be me? Why shouldn't that be me? That's up for it's up for me to decide.
Hey, I always say the special teams guys are like ditch diggers. Nobody wants to do it, but it's a very important job. Talk
hmm
about just being one of those guys that the average football fan, if he's not returning a kick or kicking a field goal, they probably don't pay a
Don't
lot of
know you.
attention to the other guys. But
Don't know you
just
at all.
talk about how important it is, and I don't want to use the word warfare because that's real life, but just the battle that it is running down the field and the wear and tear on your body.
100%. Man, it is so important because you see all those returners out there, right? All those leaks and grants and the dude
Elfords
from
and
Alfred's and the guy from
Whiteheads and all
Montreal,
those guys.
Fletcher,
Yeah.
Whitehead, all those guys, right? You know those guys. Someone's got to stop them. That is our job. Someone's got to stop them. And not only that, because you're in the absolute trenches where flags are not called and your body is on the line and you're constantly putting tear on it. You're constantly running 60, 70, 80, 90 yards, right? not only do you have to stop those guys, but you got to stop those guys often, right? Because if they make one play, you haven't done your job all day. That's the reality of it, right? It's not like it's kind of like offensive line in the sense of if you allow one sack a game, you're bad at your job, right? So as a unit, right? If we allow one touchdown a game, that's 18 touchdowns a season.
Yeah,
We're not great. That's the reality of it, right? And
true.
in order to do that, you got to have players on the field to tackle these guys for all 18 games. So I think not only being able to, make those plays for myself and my other teammates, right? We got Rowe out there, we got the twins,
Mhm.
um, and Adam, of course, and so many other guys that are out there running down there making plays and throwing their bodies on the line for the team. I've also been able to play all 18 games. This is my second year now where I'm able to do what I do at a high level the whole time, right? I haven't been injured, knock on wood. I've been blessed in longevity as well. So not only is it important to stop those guys from returning touchdowns all day because they're damn talented and they're really
Yeah,
fast,
yeah.
but be able to do it all the time. And same with the kickers, right? We got to be able to block for those guys to make kicks. You've seen the difference of winning a game with the kick or losing a game with the kick or the wind or whatever the case may be. It's important to block for those kickers and to make sure long snappers, holders, kickers are in good op time and all that good stuff.
Mm.
Because if you don't have it, that's the part that people really need to like don't get. If you don't have it, I promise you your team gonna look different. I
Yeah.
promise you your team gonna
Yeah.
look different.
Hey, I got to ask you this question. I had Ryder Varga, a Regina kid who was on the Lions and now on the Argos.
Hmm.
He finally got to be a regular on defense and was surprised he got traded to Toronto. But he was like you, cutting his teeth on special teams. And he said there'd be some games where he felt guilty cashing his check because he didn't get much special teams work and he wasn't on defense. Has that ever happened to you where you felt guilt? Like, I know you deserve the check, but you know what I mean? Where maybe you only got in for 4 or 5 plays?
Yeah, I mean, there have definitely been some games where it's like, definitely more in my first 2 years where in terms of like special teams reps,
Yeah.
it was like 30, 35 reps a game, which people be like, oh, that's not a lot. Well, you sprint 60 yards, and if there's actually a return, you got to sprint 60 back. That's a lot of that's a lot of running
Yes.
on top of actual physical contact, right? And it's not like you can take a play off, right? You can make every play. It's not like if you play field corner and they throw a quick 5 yard out to the boundary. You ain't gotta go nowhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like your rep is done. You took a few steps backwards, and you call it a day. That's not special teams, right? You are running to the ball as fast as you can with as much effort as you can every time the ball is kicked or caught. So no uh but there've definitely been some games where it's like, man, I feel like I've only been out there 5 times. Like I'm bored, I'm cold, I ain't do shit today. Or there's some other days where this one's kind of like a compliment, or maybe
Yeah.
it's just how things go. But
Yeah.
like you're running down there and every return goes away from you. Every single one. You're like, well, what the hell am I doing here for?
Yeah.
I'm just running straight and everybody's running away from me. What the hell? You know?
Yeah.
So there's some days like that where I'm like,
Special
you know what?
teams are special teams, AJ, are interesting. And people, I mean, I'm not saying people don't know, but a lot of people don't really pay attention to it. It's like if you are not in your lane by a smidgen, that's all it takes for a guy to go the other way. Like you got to go down fast, but you got to be disciplined, and it's almost a battle with your mind to not get out of your lane.
100%. And you gotta. It's important to work with the rest of your team because there's returns, right? Returns like the design return for things like league or whatever like that. They are designed to get people out of lanes. That's what they're built to do,
Mhm.
right? Same with Fletcher. Same with those guys, right? They are absolutely designed to get people out of lanes. When return touchdowns happen, blockers are doing a great job displacing people covering kicks. That's what happens, right? That's how you create creases. It's
Yeah.
not just the ball was kicked and this returner's elite. No, I would love to say that, and sometimes that's the case, but no, that's not the case, right? It is
Mhm.
so important to cover as a team because if not, um, honestly, it happened to us when we faced Montreal in the Fletcher touchdown.
Yeah.
We had one person outside of the lane. That's how it happened, right? And all of a sudden he can cut up and it creates lanes for people to go through, right?
Yeah.
So no, it's so important. If we worked as a team in that moment specifically, that wouldn't have happened. And
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe that game would have been different. You never know, right? It's
Yeah.
special teams, but it changes games. But
Hey,
it's so
AJ,
important.
AJ, what's tougher? Going out in the flats and covering stand back like that, okay? Or coming up and making a play in the flats, or hustling down and covering a kick? What's tougher?
Hustling down and covering kick is tougher. 100%. Especially if you're like from start to finish, if you're running down there, you beat a blocker, then you make a play and may actually make the tackle on a 5'8", 175-pound returner. Yeah, that's definitely easier than already being, again, I play linebacker, right? So already being 5-7 yards off the ball, taking a pass drop, then coming downhill and making a tackle when I have help with my teammates as well. That is definitely, and on top of that, he's in the flats. So he's already close to the sideline compared to a returner who has the whole field to work with if he chooses. So, yeah, definitely. People sleep on it. It's harder than it looks.
Yeah,
It's
it is
harder than it
hard.
looks to
Hey,
get.
remember that game where Janarian Grant with the Bombers has the ball on you? He's on your sideline and then weaves his way back all the
You
way
know,
across and up the field. Or you got to be like, what the fuck? How did
I
he
know,
get away from everybody?
I know the one. I was on the field when that happened. On top of that, it was TSN's number one play. So, so everywhere I went, I saw it. I literally remember being out with my friends, getting some
Yeah,
food, whatever, and we
yeah.
saw it on the screen. I'm like, oh, why is this everywhere I go?
Let
No,
me
that
ask
was
you
that
though,
was an incredible play by him.
besides the replay, like besides TSN, whatever, man,
Mhm.
you gotta dread going to film work the next day, don't you? Don't you just
Yeah,
dread sitting in there?
100%. It's embarrassing, right? Again, I pride myself on making tackles. We all pride ourselves on doing our
Yeah,
job to the highest of our ability. To let something like that happen is per se outside of our character. It's not something we want to do, right? We
hmm
we failed.
hmm
That's the reality of it, right? We failed at that moment. So no, you don't want to go back to work and see that and see your mistake live over and over and over.
and
And
they
then you
gotta
finish work, and then you finish work, right? The season's over. I go home, I'm chilling with my friends, and I'm seeing it again. Like I'm back in that film room. It's chasing me. The guilt is chasing me. And
I
it's got
love it.
99 speed. I don't get it. I don't
You're
get it. I'm
awesome.
not a fan of it. But
You're awesome.
yeah.
Hey, it's a combine weekend coming up here in Regina in a couple of weeks.
Mhm.
You've been through this before. What kind of advice do you have for the young guys that may watch or listen to this and are going to embark in Regina and chasing their dreams?
Um Pay attention to detail for one, because these coaches are going to coach you, right? I think the combines changed from how when I
hmm
was there, right? I
Yeah.
remember I think now it's a whole week.
Well,
Um
it's actually intense. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but 2 days of on field drills and
yeah,
playbooks and
so
all that
that's
stuff.
that's not something I've ever done. So but in my head at least, I've never been there, but in my head that's more of a practice now.
Yeah.
So if it is more like a practice, the things I can give you are yes, listen. Coaches are going to tell you what they want done. Listen, get that thing done. If your job is to cover a deep third, cover a deep third. If your job is to play cover two, play cover two. If your job is to stay in the B gap, I don't think I need to say this over and over again. Two, when it does come for time for creativity, um, be yourself, right? Do what got you there. People, that's something I keep trying to tell my teammates too, or something like that. Like, you're here for a reason. They invited you here for a reason. You have your own spin on football. You had it in university. That's what got you here. Be yourself. Do what got you. Don't be scared now, right? This is time for you to be confident. Do
hmm
that. Do what got you here. And then three, I think what's going to differentiate player for player in a practice setting, as it does here, is your leadership. Are you able to communicate with your teammates?
hmm
That's right. That's what defense is. That's what offense is. Can you talk to the guy beside you and be on the same page? Being on the same page will create more team success. More team success always creates more good things. Money, championships, yada yada yada. So that starts with communication. As a linebacker, are you able to get your defensive line intact? Are you able to talk to the other linebacker? As a free safety, are you able to get your other DBs in check? Can you get to the same coverage? Can you communicate, hey, he's going to the people that are talking more are going to have more success. Um and same with offense as well, right? Run your route at the right depth. If you're playing offensive line, you're playing center or whatever like that, make sure you are in the right checks, in the right pass pros, um, things like that, right? Communication is so key. And a lot of people, when they get to things like that, they're either playing for themselves or they're just not confident in that aspect. So I think those three things are going to differentiate who's going to make it, who's not.
Can't wait to see you in your fourth year coming up here. It's not that far away. Thanks for your time, man. Enjoy the rest of the off season. I appreciate it, AJ.
Thanks so much for having me, man. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure.
Well, I'm out of my element. You're in yours. You're used to being in front of cameras and everything like that. How you doing, bud?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, man. So I gotta ask. So, like, is this a regular ritual? Like, you grow your hair and then cut it off and donate it to charity, or is this like your version of a playoff beard?
I don't know what it is, but it's amazing because of the job I have, and I guess because of social media, how much attention it gets. You know what I usually do? So the last one was definitely kind of a COVID cut, grew it. There were, to some extent, no rules. People who'd never had beards or mustaches suddenly had both. And I had this incredibly long, fluffy hair. So there was a purpose. This one, to be honest with you, the Oilers played October 9th, their first game of the regular season. And for a number of years, I would literally cut it either the morning of the first game or generally the day before. And I really would I live on the north side of Edmonton, and my wife always jokes, I think they think you're part of the military because we don't live far from the base, because I would get it really short. I just, that's the way I liked it. This year, I was coaching my daughter's soccer team, and I missed out on the sort of day before cut. And then I'm double clutching, procrastinating. And now I'm at the point where into March, I'm hoping I can take it to the end of the regular season and then get a cut for the playoffs.
Okay, so my significant other's into like hair and beauty and all that stuff. She said he looks much more attractive when he's got short hair. Not that he's not that he's not good looking when he has long hair, but he looks like he's a roadie for Led Zeppelin or Whitesnake.
Well, I keep waiting for a call to be in one of those 1980s videos, and I think I even know that myself. That it reaches that point where it's past the point of making you look good the older that you get. So I am also looking forward to having short hair, just not quite yet. So I'll see if I can sneak 6 more weeks out, and then I'll be nice and polished up for the playoffs.
How many years have you been doing this gig now? Like this as a host?
Yeah, well, I've been in TV actually this month. I graduated from NAIT in Edmonton, 1987. So 38 years of being in broadcasting. And I started doing this job in the fall of 98. So I guess 26 years of hosting the Oilers. It's been follow your dreams, right? We tell kids who ask us for advice. So I'm an old guy who's saying the same thing and just continues to follow his.
Yeah. So you're a local guy. Has it been hard at all to separate fan from job?
Well, you should have caught me in 1998. It was definitely different because up until that point, I'd been broadcasting for 11 years, but never worked in Edmonton. And, when the Oilers would roll through Winnipeg or Toronto, for sure, that night you're cheering them on. And that's it. It's done. Now it's different because you're covering them all the time. For sure, in the beginning, it was I took the losses quite hard, kind of like a fan. And then I'd turn on the happy face for the post-game interview with Peter Forsberg or Joe Sakic or Jerome McGinley or Eric Lindros or whoever it was. But inside, I was kind of like, Now I think maybe it's just years of doing it or decades that I'm more accustomed to it. I'm not sure I like it anymore. And on the inside, I'm an Oiler guy, and I do want them to play well and be successful. But I will say as well, over the years, decades, you become a fan of people. So. Am I a fan of, for example, the New Jersey Devils? Not necessarily, but I like Jack Hughes, like unfortunately he's out for the season now, but you end up liking players on teams. Braden Shen, a good Saskatchewan boy, and Luke Shen, another good Saskatchewan boy. How do you cheer against those guys? And as a result, it's almost an extension. You don't necessarily cheer against their teams either. And I think that's where I was in the beginning, where now I'm certainly alluding to the hope of an Oiler win, but I'm not cheering against the other team. It's more about just supporting your own team. Off camera, not on camera.
Off camera here. Yeah, Gene Principe from Sportsnet here, the Behind the Glass feature. So, I like doing football and hockey play-by-play. So when I watch a game, I listen to how Jack Michaels, who I think is the best in the business, call the games. Football play-by-play from, NFL, CFL guys, how they call radio and set the play up and everything like that. When you got into this, who did you kind of, I don't say mimic, but emulate, or I'll take a little bit of this and a little bit of that?
Yeah. Well, I certainly, when I was into my broadcast career, even though at the time I thought Ron McLean was a lot older, Ron's not that much older than me, but it's sure, when you're 20 or 21, someone who might be 28 or 29 seems, just a lot older. So Ron, I mean, listen, I laugh sometimes when people say, "Oh, Ron's doing puns like you are," and I'm thinking, no, Ron's the master here. Okay, I may be the prince of puns, but he's the king of puns, and I want to come McLean on that. So he definitely is the guy. But to really rewind, when I was a kid, I watched some of the people like Ernie Afghaniss at CBC. I watched local people in Edmonton like Al McCann, who used to do CFL and did Olympics. And I don't know why, when I was really young, I really loved Howard Cosell, who was a staple on ABC Monday Night Football. For those viewers of yours, he used to do Battle of the Networks when ABC, CBS, and NBC would do track and tug of war and different things like that. I always loved the vernacular and the vocabulary that Howard Cosell had. So those are some of the guys that I just listened to. And I think one of the things, Michael, for me, when I was a kid watching sports, I loved the sport, but I loved the announcing of the sport too. And that seemed to, gain my love and interest just as much, or almost as much, as exactly what was going on the pitch, the baseball diamond, the hockey rink. I really was enamored with the people that called the games. And I think that's what led me, along with the average soccer skills, to go into broadcasting.
Listen, I think you're a great broadcast journalist, but you're more you're kind of the funny guy at the rink, but you add some good information, great host in between periods. I think highly of your work. But when you're I feel like the players have a comfortability with you because they don't feel like you're a threat. Am I right when I say that?
Yeah, I mean, I hope you're right, and I do go by that. I have a lot. I gotta say, I have a lot of respects for the hard-hitting journalists who write things, who say things, who talk about things that are difficult to say about players, about people. That's never what I want it to be, and it's just I don't know, not that they don't want to make friends. It's just I would hate to walk into a dressing room having known that I just ripped player A, B, and F, and then going in there going, it's just not me. And I always feel like for my job, to tell some of the anecdotes and stories that I have to have the player not be, people say, "Are you friends with Connor McDavid?" No, but we are friendly. We do get along. We do talk. We do chat, not only on camera, but off camera. And so for me, the lifeline for me is the public relations people that help set me up with the players, and then the players who help tell stories about themselves that you don't necessarily have the opportunity to see on a fact sheet or a stat sheet. So I'm glad I have the role that I have. I think it also, Michael, it's the kind of person I am, not just the kind of broadcaster that I am. But I tell you, I feel like almost like you're kind of a host entertainer.
Yep.
But I do appreciate it when you say something like you just did, that I pass on information that people maybe want to know or want to hear.
Yeah, you do it in a way that engages, which I like, and I have appreciation for being in the broadcast industry. Not quite as long as you, but not that far away either,
Yeah.
to be quite honest with you. Okay, so can you cut your damn hair so we can
Yeah.
get the Edmonton Oilers on a winning streak? Because we got to change things up here. This team is allergic to breaks. Like, they're allergic to
Yeah.
breaks.
Yeah, you're right, Michael. And I think this one has gone on a little bit longer than people expected. I think, coming off a road trip where they won 1 of 5 and then coming home and being defeated by Anaheim, I don't think anyone would have been surprised with a little bit of a slow start after a Four Nations faceoff break that really is a long one during a hockey season. But then it kind of hasn't left them. And so, Leon Draisaitl was saying it doesn't matter what your team name is. When you have a stretch like they've had recently, you are a little bit fragile. You are a little bit uncertain. You know that you can fix it, but you're waiting and wondering how that can get fixed. And I think that it comes down to hard work. And Corey Perry, after the loss against his old team, Anaheim, said, we got to work from the net out. Listen, we can't win hockey games with the amount of goals we've been allowing. It's just too many. And so if they can solidify things from the net to the blue line, then let's get to center ice, the other team's blue line. And then I think there's a lot of natural ability that will take over in the other team's defensive zone. So for sure, it's something they need to do. Listen, if it takes me cutting my hair for them to win a Stanley Cup, sign me up, buddy. I'm happy to do it. And a lot of other people would be happy too.
So you're closer to the team. We talked a couple seconds ago. I don't expect you to be critical, but I want your thoughts on the goaltending, because the Oilers haven't given up a ton of shots this year. I think they're middle of the pack there. But they don't have the save percentage from either guy, and they're really struggling in the net right now, which you got to be solid in if you're going to go anywhere.
Well, for sure. It's a heavy topic of conversation around Edmonton and I guess around the hockey world. I felt after the whole team kind of had a sort of malaise feeling to the start. And listen, I totally get it. And I didn't block a shot or go in on a forecheck or do anything physical. My work was, other than holding a microphone, all mental, watching the Oilers go through that Stanley Cup run and then being devastated with a Game 7 loss. So I totally got the start of the season, the first 15, 20 games, and even a little bit, as you mentioned, out of the break. But I think that this has become like Stuart Skinner had maybe a slow start. And I really tie it in with the team. It's not just, wow, the team's playing great and one person isn't playing great. I think it really is a team situation. But Stuart had come along real nice, and then lately there's been a bit of a dip, and that's what has people concerned. And Calvin Pickard has been really playing well as a backup, but then people are wondering, can he be the number one guy for extended periods of time, like he was for a couple games in the Vancouver series last year in the playoffs? He came in, played, kind of helped the Oilers straighten things out. But Stewart came back in, won Game 6, won Game 7, and then, of course, they went all the way to the final game of the Stanley Cup final. It's definitely a huge topic of conversation. I don't know what Edmonton will do and whether that will involve a goalie. Friday at the deadline, they've got the one game Thursday prior to the deadline. I'm not sure, if you asked Stan Bowman 10 days ago what he was going to do compared to now, would the answer be different? I guess we'll find out on Friday to see how much tinkering they do, what they do in net, on the blue line or up front, because this team is definitely, listen, Jeff Jackson, president of hockey operations, first words he said basically is, we're here to win it now. And they almost did last year, and they want to push it one more win forward this year.
So I watched the Amazon special there where everybody's seen it now. What was it like being around that team when they came back close? Like, how devastating was that? How funeral-like was that?
Yeah. Well, Zach Hyman said it's the worst feeling you could ever have that isn't the actual loss of a loved one or a friend. And I kind of thought about that, and I thought, wow, and then that Amazon documentary, it really took us, any more inside, you'd see their heart and their veins and their capillaries. And that was really inside viewership that we just have not seen. And these guys were gutted, which is, I know, a soccer term, but I use it for hockey. And I don't, and that's the thing. Listen, Ballsy, I get fans love the Oilers. I mean, and you know, from your time with the Riders, I mean, a lot of times fans know more than I do about the Oilers, and I love that. I think that's fantastic because they're so invested emotionally, physically, mentally, and financially to support their team. But you know, no one can ever tell me that somebody who doesn't wear the Oiler uniform wanted to win that cup more than Zach Hyman or Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl. It was very devastating, and it took a long time for them to recover from that. I think now, you know, the recovery will never be fully complete, but I think it'll get as close to that as possible if they win a Stanley Cup. So they know what it feels like to be on the wrong side of it, just like Florida did. I still feel like this team has as good a shot as anyone to win the Stanley Cup. Once they get through this rough patch, I really expect them to take off the last, I would say 15 games of the season and be in a prime spot to, you know, go after it again and not win 15 times in the playoffs, but 16.
Yeah, and it's weird. This one situation's kind of weird because you feel like they need an Evander Kane kind of player. We don't know if he's going to be back or is he going to be traded to free cap space. Like, it's kind of weird, right? And I think, Gene, it's unrealistic to keep him out and then all of a sudden expect him to flip a switch in the playoffs. I think that's unrealistic.
Well, that is tough. I mean, for sure, if he were a much younger player, I don't think there could be or would be that expectation. I think the belief is that Evander, you know, he's been to a conference final with the Oilers, another one with San Jose. He's been to a cup final with Edmonton, that he is the kind of player that could, you know, not necessarily from shift one of game one, but maybe 3 or 4 games or maybe 3 or 4 wins into a playoff round. You advance to the second round, and then you start seeing the Evander Kane, who, when Edmonton made it to the conference final against Colorado, he had 13 goals. I mean, he was amazing. I mean, listen, if they had beat Colorado and gone on to a final, who knows what would have happened, but Evander would have been up there for your Conn Smythe. And I know Connor and Leon, of course, the usual suspects, but he had 13 goals with a cup final to play. Who knows if he would have had 16 or 18 or where he would have ended up. So it's really a dilemma. We don't see him much. The odd time we'll see Evander appears to be in a good mood. You know, we say, hello, how are you? He skates separately from the team, so we're not really watching him skate to see how he's doing there. But, you know, Chris Knobloch this week, another, you know, good Saskatchewan boy, has said that he basically, when they come to him, that means that Evander is ready to start spending more time with the team and on the ice and going from non-contact to practice to getting into full contact to eventually being ready to play. So here we are, the early part of March, and Chris Knobloch hasn't been notified. So the fans haven't been notified. So we don't really know what'll happen, especially going into the deadline.
Okay, lastly, I say this kind of tongue-in-cheek, but I am going to say what a lot of fans are thinking. What's wrong with Connor McDavid?
Well, you know, it was interesting, and I love Connor. You know, I don't feel like I feel like a kind of a great uncle who, you know, doesn't see him all the time, but sees him enough to understand what he's feeling. And it was amazing in Florida how the self-analysis came through on his own. Like, nobody asked him, hey, Connor, how are you playing? Or what do you think about your play? He himself came out. And you can, you know what? Yeah, you spend enough time around people, you start to feel like you can read their faces, their body language, the way they act. And I could just, I felt like he just wasn't happy with his own game. And that's weird because at the time he was tied for 4th in NHL scoring. And, you know, he was coming back from basically being away from the Edmonton Oilers and having played in those highly emotional Four Nations face-off games. And he himself just came out and said it. And listen, if the captain and this generational talent is looking in the mirror saying this isn't good enough, you know, they say, Ballsy, that the worst lie you can tell is one you tell while looking in a mirror, because that means you're lying to yourself. Mm-hmm. And that is something that Connor McDavid would never do and has never done. He had a great game against Anaheim. The team did not, but he really was, I'm like, okay, that looks like the Connor McDavid that, you know, can put up 2 points a game and average that the rest of the season. So that was a big positive sign. So I think we're seeing the Connor McDavid we're used to after a lot of people not seeing the Connor McDavid that they're used to, including Connor himself.
Yeah, and I'll slide one more in here because I don't get you all the time. It's weird when he's hurt or not playing. I feel like they raise their game and play better.
Yeah.
So you wonder why they can't do it when he's actually on the ice all the time. I'm not saying they don't do it all the time.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's almost subliminally like Connor will bail us out.
Yes. Yeah. I think listen, we've all been on teams. I can never say I was the Connor McDavid of any team I played on, but you have those elite athletes, those elite players in whatever sport it is. And it's just subconscious. You just go, player blank is here. So, which, the opposite, when player blank isn't there, your height of awareness, the hair on the back of your neck is standing up because you're like, hey, that guy, that gal's not here. We got to pick it up. And I just don't know if there's that, I'm not sure if it's human nature, whether you can manufacture that same feeling when Connor, in this case that we discuss, is not in the lineup compared to when he is. But I think the overall situation right now that Edmonton is in has put everybody sort of on standby. Like it's not just him or them. It's us that needs to be, as a group, better. We know we can do it. We have done it. And I really do believe that they will do it very soon.
Okay, so whether his hair is short and he's looking like Pierce Brosnan and James Bond, or whether he looks like a White Snake roadie, he's the best in the business. Gene Principe, thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ballsy. Take care, pal.